That was quick. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I was surprised when I came in this morning at 8:45. The choir was already here. I felt so sorry for them having to get up this morning after such a fantastic performance last night. And not only did they have to get up and get dressed and get over here, and then they warmed up. And I should have warmed up with them, and I didn't. Debbie and I were doing a little last-minute strategizing. I'm thankful to GIA for putting together our booklet. I would like you to take your pens and pencils and please write Debbie Glaze's name on it, because when they revised this, because we used the same one in Salt Lake City back in February for the ACBA, they left her name off, and it's really irritating me because she's the brain expert, it's not me. So Debbie, that's how she goes, D-E-B-B-I, Glaze, G-L-A-Z-E. She's going to tell you about how the brain works, and I'm just going to do my usual thing, which is rehearse the choir, you know. With that said, I want to tell you how this came about. Debbie was my student at San Jose State. She got her master's degree with me. And as I recall, her project was to compile and do a bibliography of all the master's degrees that were in the library that nobody had ever, collated. Wasn't it something like that? Master's degree dissertations or something at San Jose State. Anyway, in those days we didn't have to turn a choir and sing always. We had, several options. Anyway, she graduated in 1980. So that's how long we've known each other. She was my alto section leader in my church choir, First Presbyterian Burlingame, and her husband was my tenor section leader. So we were very close friends and stayed in contact as she taught locally and then moved away. But we always stayed in contact. She came back from our retirement party 10 years ago. So then I was in Texas a year ago, January, doing sessions for the TMEA, the largest music convention in the country, 25,000 people. And I didn't know it, but she was in the audience on a Renaissance session that I was giving on how to rehearse Renaissance music and make it come alive. And I said, let's go have lunch. And so we had lunch together, and she said, you're doing a lot of things that are really brain-based. And I said, what do you mean? And she told me that this had become one of her areas of specialty. If you didn't know it already, she's head of Mus Ed here at Portland State. And she said that's become one of my pet things, and I do all these talks all the time about how to make the brain work more efficiently and to make all those little neurons talk to each other. And I said, what you're doing, I don't think a lot of choral directors know. We all just keep doing what we were taught to do, and I don't think we're all aware of all the latest brain research and how it applies to our teaching. I said, why do you write an article for the Choral Journal? She said, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. Because she's out doing workshops all the time for band directors and orchestra directors and elementary teachers. And so we kept in touch, and then when GI asked me if I would do a session at Salt Lake City, I thought, perfect. It's a chance for me to let Debbie tell choral directors what she knows about the brain. So we put it together. Of course, there are so many things we could have done, but because of time, we decided to delimit it to the 5 key principles. There are many more principles, but we're delimiting, right? So I'm going to turn this over to Debbie and let her tell you what she knows, and I'll just try to put some of the principles to work. And I should warn you now, I'm probably not doing anything that you've never seen or done yourself, but it might remind you of something you forgot to do and you want to do at your next rehearsal. So I'm not doing anything earth-shattering. It's just all stuff that kind of applies to how the brain works. So, Debbie, take it away.
I'm so sorry to interrupt for one moment. As we have more people coming in, I know we love to sit on the ends of rows. If we can move towards the middle of the row so that those who are arriving don't have to crawl over you. Thank you so much.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Please find a seat.
There is one thing I should tell you. Debbie and I said, what can we do that's a little bit different from what we did in Salt Lake City? And I don't know that we're doing anything different, but what my point is that as choral directors, we need to be aware of the fact that a lot of our students are going to go out and be choral directors themselves. And they will do what they have done in your choir. And if all they've done is sat and sing, then that's not very good for them. And so we need to give them the same experiences that they need to use when they teach. And so hopefully some of these things you'll remember that it's a good idea if you do them in rehearsal. And for nothing else, just to point out to your students, these are what you need to do when you go out and teach junior high or high school or have a community choir to keep everybody engaged. Yes? Go.
Thank you and welcome to Portland State. I'm so thrilled and honored to be presenting again with Charlene today on my pet passion, which is good teaching. Good teaching is also part of a good rehearsal. And so we are talking today about not so much you and your rehearsal tactics, which you've probably honed over many wonderful years, but what do your students take away as they go into the classroom or their own rehearsal? There will be a little bit of talking, a lot of demonstrating, and the wonderful thing about brain study is now we can see the brain and we know what's going on and we know better what works and what doesn't work. And so we'll talk a lot today about all the things that will make your students learn quicker and remember more. Because if they don't remember, they haven't learned. And if they have no meaning for what they have done, they won't remember. So everything in rehearsal is about creating memories and context and meaning. And watching Michelle the other night with the choir, it was so wonderful to watch that happen. As I deal with principals and school districts around here, young teachers, especially in areas of reading and math, are really getting tuned into brain-based teaching, what works and what doesn't. So I will have principals say, please send me an elementary general music teacher who really understands brain-based teaching. So it's not something we can ignore anymore and just say, oh, this is how we've done it since 1500. We need to clue into who our students are. The other thing about our students in middle school and high school, who are the vast majority of our singers in our schools, is they don't sit like a college choir and be perfectly behaved for 90 minutes or an hour because they're auditioned and highly motivated. They need a different kind of pacing and teaching and engagement to keep them alive and engaged and in their memories. So that's basically the introduction of what we're going to talk about. These are the 5 guiding principles that we're going to talk about today, all of which are in your brochure. So often I go out and observe student teachers, young teachers, doing all the work, playing the piano, singing all the parts, cueing everybody incessantly, and the singers are happy to be engaged in that way because they're getting a lot of help. And when you change that to who's actually doing the work, who's doing the learning, we're going to look at that today. Where is the struggle for the learner? Because without work, there is not that learning. If the teacher's doing all the work, there's really not deep learning. An emotional hook for each piece is so important. Why did you choose it? What is it? What is its power to say? Students remember this stuff so much more than how do we tune this chord, or how do we align this phrase, or what is the balance between basses and sopranos? Students find that what we call fodder. It's not feeling, it's not emotional engagement, it's just facts about the music, which is important, but it's not memorable. And you'll say, circle this, circle that, you'll remember it next time. They'll remember it deeper if there's an emotional attachment. Movement, you'll see Charlene do movement all day today, all the time. And sitting for an entire hour is not good for the brain, and we'll talk about that. Variety and novelty. We know in brain study that doing the New York Times crossword puzzle, the harder one each day, is good for the brain. But what's even better for the brain is doing it with your non-dominant hand, or doing a Sudoku instead, or learning a new language, or brushing your teeth with a different hand. Those things grow the brain because it requires connections and struggle. So we're going to talk about variety and novelty, and they will show you that today. And then we're not going to talk a lot about this today, but risk is important. The brain shuts down with too much risk. Too much stand and sing, go down the line, all those old school sorts of things shut down the voice, but they also shut down the brain. And we know with children of poverty, which more and more of our teachers are going out into schools of poverty, the idea of risk is so prevalent in their lives. So those are our guiding principles today. When we talk with our students here about designing a rehearsal, designing a lesson plan, we want to see when they get up and teach all these different ideas. Movement, obviously, audio-visual kinesthetic activities, all those things that we put into a good lesson. Student accountability, you'll see these students from Azusa Pacific be called on to be accountable today, and they're learning deeply because they have to on the spot. Review and reflection is important, and laughter and fun grows learning, believe it or not. So, before Charlene gets up to do the first thing, this is the constant idea of we want to see engagement. Our new teacher licensing programs across the states, the NCCO, students must present videos that show student engagement. I'm so glad I'm in music because the math teachers are freaking out. They are worried. Music teachers, how do we get students engaged? They remember more, and you want them thinking, you want them working on all levels as they are engaged and working at what they're doing, individually giving 100%. So Charlene will start with Viva la Musica with the choir.
Will you just sing key of A flat? Viva la Musica. In your own range. Just stand and sing it, right?
Viva la musica, viva la musica, viva la musica.
You sound great for early in the morning. Thank you. This time I would like you to use your left hand, and then your right hand, and then both hands. Oh, and if you can, where you are, if you would just step forward with the foot, or the other foot. Up a half step. 1, 2.
Viva la musica, viva la musica, viva la musica.
Good. Will you look at each other? Half the choir, look at this half. Find somebody that you love to sing with, and that you really want to convince them that you love music. Long live music. But your face has to say, I love music, right? Up another half step, please. Ready, go.
Viva la musica, viva la musica, viva la musica.
Thank you. You can sit down. What did you notice about the thing? Yes, Adam?
You were actively communicating with another person.
You were communicating. Why is that important?
That's what you were doing in performance.
Because that's what you're supposed to be doing in performance, right? Communicating with our audiences. Great, yes.
The movements influence the shape of the notes, whether growing or going.
Really? The movement actually helped you shape the phrases and build the accent. What else did you notice? Yeah.
I enjoyed singing more when I was looking at it.
Oh, isn't that important? That we enjoy what we're doing? Yes. I like my choirs to have fun in rehearsal. If it isn't fun, don't do it. That's my motto. I want my choir to love every minute they're in choir. And I want them to be engaged mentally every minute. I never ever let my choir sit and listen while I work with another section. If the sopranos need help, I'll say, I'll meet you tonight at 7:30 and we'll have the beer and then we'll work that out. But I don't ever have my choir sit and do nothing in a choir. Everybody does everything, and I've always done that since junior high. Everybody does everything, which means that everybody's always singing, never sitting and watching. Now, I have to tell you that I used to never ask questions in my choir. I mean, I don't remember asking questions. And then I watched Amanda Quist when she came to San Jose State 7 years ago, and she was always asking key questions. And she got such interesting answers from her people, and I saw how they were really engaged when she asked questions. So I wrote to her after she left San Jose State, and I said, how do you know what kind of questions to ask? And she gave me some guidelines about what she's looking for in her questions. And so I started asking questions. So I did a workshop with a community choir, and we did, I have no voice because I had a discectomy. I'm sorry. I used to have a really good voice. I did. I mean, I could have sung solo voice. Because I made voice my guiding principle. You know, you've got to understand the voice before you can teach choir. And so, so we were doing this exercise, and we finished. And here's this group of adults, pretty old. And I said, why did we do that exercise? And they gave me all these weird answers that had nothing to do with what we had just done. And I said, well, the reason I asked you to do that exercise is uniformity of vowels, and all the vowels are placed in the same place in the mouth, and that the throat is open for both O and E, and I realized that my choirs are going through these things every day, and they don't know why we're doing them. And how are your students going to go out and decide which vocalist to use if they don't know why you chose the vocalist, right? So that's one of the reasons that I ask questions afterwards, and it's interesting, yes. So movement helps, expression helps, enjoyment of the process helps. I never do a warm-up ever without some kind of a movement. And if I can't think of a movement, I ask the singers to think of a movement. And it's like Debbie said, I used to do all this stuff, and I worked so hard in rehearsal, and I thought, they're just standing there doing nothing. Why don't I have them do what I'm doing? So whatever I did with my hands, I had them do with their hands. And that's how I got into the whole movement thing. Because I was doing it myself, pulling it out of them, That you pull, you do this, you do that. And so that's how I got into movement rehearsal. Yeah.
It's also how she got into he who does the work does the learning. One of the things that's the latest research that I'm really excited about is what happens when your tenors are rehearsing a little part and half of everyone singing. What is everyone else doing? Well, if they're in middle school, they're doing, we don't know. But the latest research, and I won't go into the whole story, but it shows pretty conclusively that people who are thinking about something in a focused way, their brain is working and growing just like the people who are actually singing. So if they have assignments of something to be doing, or if they're singing the tenor line, or if they're humming their line, if they have a focused assignment, their brain will stay engaged rather, and you all know this. Young teachers have trouble with this. They're so worried about getting the tenor line that they ignore everyone else, and then nothing is accomplished. So there should be in the lesson plan tasks for everybody. While I'm working this part, your assignment sopranos is this, altos is this. Be comfortable with silence and wait time. As Charlene says, when you ask questions, you get a lot of hands popping up, typically the same people every time. You want to engage every student and wait for them, as hard as that is in our rehearsal structure. Or you want to elicit that. Adam, what are you thinking this time? And there's no right or wrong answer from Adam, but he is empowered to talk and to think. And besides the fact, if everyone knows they might be called on, everyone is thinking, not just the people with their hands in the air, because those tend to be the same people. So if we say, I'm going to ask somebody how you felt about that exercise and what did you focus on? I'm going to think of someone to ask. So it gives them time to think. And then you randomly call on someone in a very supportive way. So everyone is thinking, not just the people with their hands in the air. The value of the struggle. The younger the student, the more they hate the struggle. American students these days will jump in and out of activities if they have to struggle. But music is a long learning curve, and we know the struggle builds their brain. I have yet to see a classroom where if you said to somebody, this is building your brain, let's stick with it, let's keep working, that went, oh, I don't want a better brain, sorry, I'm out. They get that. This is good for your brain. So quickly, I talked about this before, no application of what you're talking about. So when she tells you to do something, and then you apply it. So often I see rehearsals where somebody says, that chord was out of tune, here we go again. Well, they haven't applied what she just said to fix the chord because she's in a hurry or whatever. So we have to apply something to create a memory of that chord, not just talk about it. I'll show you a frightening slide in a minute about how much students remember about what you said in the rehearsal. Application means doing, not talking about it. And show them where the patterns are. We have our young students find the patterns in all the music because the brain loves patterns. Here's the slide that tells you what you remember after 1 month. Which if you're a parent, that top one is slightly terrifying because it means that, it's like Charlie Brown, wonk, wonk, wonk. You do not remember after 1 month 86% of what you heard. But if you look at the bottom one, how much do you remember if you have to teach somebody else? You have to own the material, you have to own the music. So that's why peer teaching and peer work and stand partners and partners of all kinds, turn and tell your neighbor the answer to that. Raise your hand if your neighbor got it right. That accountability and teaching of someone else is so important. I won't go into all of those up there, they're pretty obvious and they're in your packets. The next thing we're going to talk about is the emotional hook. And the emotional hook is going to be illustrated by the Halsey Stevens Go Lovely Road.
Let's just stand and sing it with fun do. I love do because D starts the consonant and U is a blending vowel. I almost never use ah because ah is our voice print. Did you know that? If they get rid of the consonant, it will probably be a voice print and the vowel will be ah because everybody's ah is distinctive. So that's why I hardly ever use ahs in my warm-up unless they're with another vowel, like sing ah or something like that. Yeah. Okay, you have your pitch? Good. On do. Too beautifully. There's not enough to work on. I told her I didn't want her to rehearse this music.
I didn't.
And she didn't. But yesterday, just running through it and telling them what I was going to be doing, they learned so fast that they already sing too beautifully. We should have had this session the other night when we did our warm-up together and I got to know them. And then you would have really seen what happened. But, they didn't sing it that well the first time we sang it, did you? No. Okay, so what do you think the tempo should be and how do we decide the tempo? Do not raise your hand. What do you think the tempo should be?
Whatever you say. No. I'm not the only one making the decisions in this choir. You have to feel good about it. What does andante mean? Giselle. We don't have a Giselle. Rochelle.
Andante means at a walking pace.
At a walking tempo. Okay, could you just walk around a little and tell me what kind of walk you think it is? And say the words to yourself as you walk. Is it a slow walk? Is it an amble? Or is it a business walk? You're in a hurry to get to your job. What kind of walk is it?
Lingers. I would say it's more, it has more movement.
More movement.
It's urgent.
Why?
This message is urgent.
Because the message is urgent. You're speaking to a rose, right? What is a rose? A rose is a rose is a rose. Isn't it interesting? How many poets choose a rose? I guess it's the most perfect flower. I love all flowers. But you're speaking to this flower, and you want the flower to send a message to whom? To your loved one, right? And you want the rose to be very emphatic so that she gets the message, all right? So it's a walk with energy, with movement, right? I always think about andante, I think if I were walking that, how would I walk it? So will you kind of walk in tempo, and will you find your tempo? I'll just give you a breath, and then you go. Ready, in. Stop there. Yeah, it's really interesting how many different tempos we had going. I kind of like the fast one, so let's try a little faster. Let's see if we can all do it together here with me. Ready, and. Lovely. I would like the women to come forward and face the men. And then just kind of stay there where you are. Ladies, will you sing to the men? Or if there's no man in here that you really love, then sing to the rose. This is a funny thing. I had a choir at San Jose State with a couple, we call them soldiers. They just stand there and sing, Or dead trees. And I had this one bass that, I think he was a little on the autistic side, you know, the whole span of autism. And I think he's a little on this side of that. And he never, ever was very expressive. So my dear student who wrote Choral Charisma, somebody give me his name quick. Thank you. Tom Carter sang with me for 3 or 4 years and wrote the book Choral Charisma, which I urge you all to get. It's unbelievable, about a classroom, community, and building a safe place to work and make music. Anyway, he had everybody pretend that they had a rubber ducky. And right there, my choir in Los Angeles, who was demonstrating a different subject at the LA convention, I said, pretend you have a rubber ducky and you're in the bathtub and you're singing your rubber ducky. So they start to sing. All of a sudden, that bass finally came alive. You'd think that's a stupid thing to sing to a rubber ducky, but it worked, you know? So will you either hold a rose or reach out and sing to one or the other? Take your pick and sing to each other, please. Ready? And also this time, will you bend your knees on the syllables that you think should have the most weight? Ready, and. So I always have them stand when they're singing and sit when they're doing something else, whatever that is. You can sit down. Yesterday I asked them if they had an idea that we could do that they think would work in rehearsal to tell us what it was. And there he is. Steve, tell the choir what you want them to do and why.
Yeah, so I came up with this idea, well, not idea, but from learning in school, of incorporating drawing into this next activity to help us better understand the text and to just engage with it more as well. So what we're going to do is take out your blank piece of paper and pencils, and I want you to draw what the text is representing. The only rule is you can't draw a rose.
Good rule. Okay. Draw what the text says to you. Very quick, line draw.
While they're drawing, I'm going to interject a couple of things here. As much as you can personalize each piece, what it means to you, why you chose it, there is so much literature out there. Why did you choose this piece? How does it speak to you? Especially with young students, this is so empowering and impactful for them. Each piece tells a story. If it's in German and they don't understand what those words are, it's pretty scary that they can't tell the story. I do a lot of adjudicating. I'll say, what are you singing about? And it's like, but their vowels are perfect. It's in tune. But the story must be told, and they will learn it better through that. Enjoyment, fun factor increases learning by a ton. That goes along with the risk idea. The amygdala, which is the part of the brain that's the oldest part of the brain, it's that fight or flight thing. In schools now we have a third F. Students can't flee, they can't fight, but they can freeze. And so if they're not engaged and not supported and not empowered, they will freeze and they won't sing well and they won't think well. So emotional attributes are very, very important. And if they have meaning, they have memory. If the work that you do on a piece has meaning, personal meaning or collective meaning, they will create a memory that will stay in their brain in a million ways. If there is no meaning, no context, the learning is much, much shallower.
It's called walk around learning. You all know, get off of the podium and move around with your choir. Be sure you're not standing in the same place all the time. I remember at Fullerton State, Dave Thorson used to always stand back 50 yards. He had a huge rehearsal room at Cal State Fullerton, and he would always stand back in rehearsals because I want to see what it sounds like in the audience when I'm rehearsing. If I get too close, I hear all the individual voices and I get distracted.
So I always try to stand back as far as I can in rehearsal, but then get close sometimes. And some of you are really artistic, just like Mendelssohn. You know, Mendelssohn was a great composer who was also an artist. He did paintings. He was amazing. He was a man of many, many talents. I don't know if Halsey Stevens was a painter or not, but I know that Halsey Stevens was the teacher of your friend, who? Lord Lawrenson, that's right. And they all know Skip because they worked with him so many times. And Michelle's been lucky. She grabbed Eric Whittaker when he was new and nobody knew him, and she just kind of took him into her choir and into her school. And she did the same thing with Skip. She's like I am. We use our friends. We all know that. Okay. So, anybody have something that you think is unique or that you would like to share? What you drew? I see some of you made a road, like a road to your heart. Some of you drew just hearts you love. Some of you drew a little bird. What was the bird you were doing?
Well, for mine, I drew a picture of a hand holding a heart, and basically giving that heart to a dove, which in a way does resemble love. And just kind of, I picture, this man giving his heart to this dove, saying, "Go." The dove resembling the urgency of how he wants.
You all get it?
To get across.
She's using the bird as a messenger, like the rose as a messenger,
Yeah.
personified, yeah. Why is this important? What do we want our audience to feel when we sing this song? And by the way, I asked her not to learn any particular songs. I said, what songs are you singing this spring after you do Christmas and after you do Portland? And so these are just pieces that are in her repertoire for next spring. She won't have to work on them very hard, obviously. That's okay. So what do you want your audience to feel when you sing this song? I know what you are feeling, what you're thinking, but what do you want your audience to feel? What do you think that, after you sing this short little love song, how is the audience going to feel? What do you want them to feel? Yeah.
I imagine that, in the context of this piece, that they are like the rose, that I am singing to them so that they can give my message to whom I love.
So you want them to actually go out and remember to tell the person that they love, I love you?
Don't
Yeah,
forget.
I forgot. That's a good message. Yes. Tell me, what do you want the audience to know, Sarah?
I want them to feel the urgency and just I have like little sunshine on here because I love just the warmth. He wants her to know how much he loves her. And so if anything, like feel the urgency, but more so feel his love and just know that.
You want them to understand what the song is about.
Yeah, and just feel like that intense love.
So that they might reproduce it with their own loved one.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's, would you have the audience applaud after you sing this song? You know how you sing a song and the audience applauds, and you sing another song and the audience applauds. Would you have the audience applaud after this short little love song? If you don't want them to applaud, what might you want them to do? Or what might you do instead of having applause? Eugene?
I think I would want them to really contemplate and reflect, and maybe, some tears would be nice.
I love the fact last night that Kent's choir was crying after they sang the soldier song. We all were moved, many of the people in the audience was crying, which is what I tell my choir. Either the audience better laugh or cry or have a good time when we sing, or we have not done our job. That's right. And so I don't want my singers particularly to sing. I said, you have to control your emotions. You can cry in rehearsal, but in performance you better be in control. But anyway, we want them to feel. So I think I would give a little pause and put in the program no applause after this piece, maybe, and then do another love song, maybe a set of 3 love songs. Kirk Meacham hates the fact that so many choirs do a 2-minute piece, and then a 3-minute piece, and a 4-minute piece, and sometimes they have nothing to do with each other, and so that's why he's always written sets. And by the way, he called me and asked me, since he couldn't be here, he said, tell all my friends I got a 25% discount for them to buy my book.
So if you don't know about Kirk's book, I have that, or I can give you his email. He will send you a 25% discount to get the book he wrote, which is titled, sorry, it's in my purse. Say it again. Believe your ears. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, Sharon's the brain expert. I feel terrible having to do this with her in the audience today. Yeah, believe your ears. It's expensive because he had trouble finding a publisher who would publish it. And he found this publisher that sells books to libraries, so they can get whatever price they want. Every library has to buy it. And then maybe if they sell enough books, they'll do it in paperback a year from now, but I wouldn't count on it. It's a very interesting book telling about his attitude toward contemporary music. That's all I'll say. Okay. So, I'm very careful to think about, I don't like polite applause. You know, so I wouldn't have them, that's just a pretty little song, but I don't know if it's gonna get a huge applause, so I would try to do a set of pieces without applause in between, or try to think about it in program, think about my audience when I sing this piece. Thank you, it's lovely singing. There are a million other things we can do with this, but let's move on.
All right, our third principle, which you've all already seen some of, is the principle of movement. I like to tell my students, your brain is using more oxygen when you're up and moving around. I also have a colleague who insists that his high school choir stand uprisers for 90 minutes each day. That's terrible on the brain as well as the body. So you need alternation to keep your oxygen flowing, to keep your brain alive. Movement internalizes music into the body, especially in young children, but for everyone, it's a way of internalizing the music so you don't have to over-rehearse. One of our most unfavorite things is reteaching. So while you may say, oh, this takes so much time out of my rehearsal plan, if the learning is deeper, you will, as you all know, save time down the road. And as we move, we also develop different parts of the brain. Cerebellum is a huge part of the brain. So they are now going to sing the Lassus, Domine Labia, and move.
I love Di Lasso. He wrote 1,000 songs, and every one of them was a jewel. And I do Di Lasso every year. I started doing it in high school, of course, all these cute little Labradors. But this is one of my favorite, and I did my own edition, and yes, it's over-edited, but I did it for people who are afraid to do Renaissance music, to give them some hints on how they can make Renaissance music come alive. So will you all sing the alto part, please, where it's written in your own range? And can you put your music on your lap and pretend to play a string instrument? Ladies, you can be violin, tenors, you can be violas, and basses, will you be string basses? And will you bow it? Every time you take a breath, will you pick up your bow and then turn another down bow? Just for the fun of it. So you can use slurs or separate bows, I don't care. How many of you have had a string methods class? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many of you are music majors? How many of you are voice majors? How many of you are non-music majors? That's interesting, yeah, good. All right, we all love playing long bows, a little vibrato. And let's do it on new, this time instead of do. You all have your pitch? Good. Ready? Here's the tempo. The Tactus in the Renaissance was considered to be about the speed of a man's heart. And I have a slow heart, so does that feel like 1001, 1002, about 60? Okay, that's the Tactus. 1 and go. Sing a new bow. What do we know about long notes? They either grow or go, right? And I didn't feel enough growth in your very first note. I tell my singers things, 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E and, so we're always subdividing. I had a conducting teacher, in fact her name was Ma Green, who said that the conductor should always be subdividing smaller than the choir singing. So I take that to 16th notes for sure. I'm always thinking 16th notes, right, if I can. So this time, will you exaggerate the messa di voce, or will you use your hands instead of playing an instrument? That's a Rod Eichenberger technique, playing instrument. I learned everything I know from Rod. Almost.
Lisa, will you go and do this motion on the long notes, because we know that it doesn't go it doesn't crescendo. There's always a little bit of a decrescendo before the next note, right, in music. So we just do this with your hands when you feel it, right? 1, 2, ready, go. Good. Breathe. Stretch. Breath. Good. Excellent. And now let's all do the tenor line. And I like what you did. Let's do that again. The Messa di Voce, right? You all know that, the name of that sign? Anybody never heard of Messa di Voce? Good. Put it on every note, longer than a quarter note. Sometimes even a quarter note has a little bloom in it, right? The tenor line, everybody together. Ready, and 1, go. Fast breath. Good. You may hold your music. Stand up. And let's have the altos and basses sing the alto line, the sopranos and tenors sing the tenor line. And let's do it with the words this time. What does the first word mean? Alyssa? God, right. God, do what? Next word says labial, lips, right? The sentence order is a little different in Latin, right? Lord, lips, what? Open, appendis, right. Open thou my lips, why? Why are you? So I can praise you. It's a very simple little text, isn't it? Lord, open thou my lips so I can sing your praises, hallelujah, right? Happy, happy. So what kind of a song will you call this? I'm sorry? A worship song of praise. Yeah, good. Song of praise. A prayer, maybe. Prayer is talking, right? Okay, here we go. Both parts and with the words. 2 parts. 1, 2, ready, go. Very nice. Yes. This is the way I always teach Renaissance music. Understand the line 1 page at a time, so they want to come back tomorrow and learn the next phrase, one phrase, one musical setting, so that they understand how the parts fit into each other. Now, because you're fast and you don't have much time, where you all sing your own part, but I'd like sopranos to make a circle here, basses circle there, altos circle here, tenors circle there. Love your patent leather shoes, guys. All men should wear patent leather on stage. Here we go. Everybody on your own part. Keep the top twos. In fact, this time, will you just sway a little in place? Left, right, ready, and sing. Now, accent. Let us hear you enter. Basses. I noticed, what's that guy in Australia that has his kids move their hands all the time? Randy. Oh, I love the way it works. I don't know that I would do it in performance, but I want my singers moving their hands and feeling with their hands all the time. So do what the line tells you to do with your hand. You don't have to do the same thing anybody else does. And every now and then, could you look up at each other and kind of listen around so that you hear each other? 1, 2, ready, shake. That's fine. And if
plant a stand in one circle behind each other so they could hear each other and they didn't hear. And in different mixes on different days, so they all got to hear each other's part behind them and around them. But we don't have enough time, so go back to your places. Thank you. And the next piece we're going to do, we'll see where we're at.
Okay, so our next principle is a really fun one. Novelty and variety. The W factor is a thing that I learned. It talks about that chemistry teacher that blows stuff up and he dresses up as Albert Einstein on the day that he blows stuff up. And kids come home and remember that forever. They may not remember the chemical principle they learned, but they remember what's going on. So everything should be different. We all know, don't do everything the same. Don't do things the same way over again. Don't rehearse the same thing the same way. I was sharing with Charlene that my son's bassoon teacher was a master of this. The late departed Lyle Dockendorf from this city. He would have my son on a treadmill with the bassoon. The treadmill was walking the pace, and it could go faster or slower. And then he would say, play the Mozart run, and then he would say, play the tonguing notes only. So he's walking on the treadmill, and he's got to think the piece in his head. So audiation is so important for the brain. And then he would only play the tongue notes. Then he would say, only play the notes that are tonic or dominant. I mean, it destroyed my son's brain every single time, but it made him such a better musician because he was thinking in such an amazing way. That was novel. That was variety. That was fun. And it makes rehearsal planning, this is what I tell my students all the time, teaching lessons in general music or rehearsal planning becomes so creative because you just don't walk in there with your pile of scores and open it up and say, what do we got going on today? You've actually planned really interesting and creative ideas. It takes time at first, but it pays off. Predictability shuts down learning. Predictability shuts down learning. If these students knew what Charlene was going to do next, because she's doing stuff differently than we did the other night, so it's great. They don't know what's coming next. They're attentive, they're engaged, because it's not predictable. And the brain loves new things. It pays attention to new things. It shuts down old things. So, teach in a variety of ways. Our next piece is going to be the Mendelssohn.
No, Avon.
Oh, Avon is next.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll just do it very quickly.
Okay.
This is a really hard piece, and I knew Nikhil Sood, Novum, what? Nothing is new under the sun, and I did that with my choir at San Luis State, but I didn't know this piece. It's chant-based, but it doesn't feel like chant, so I'm not going to play with the chant thing. It's all in quartal harmony. So the main thing is getting them to hear in chords. Yeah. So will you all put your music down and pretend you're playing the piano and sing a chromatic scale calling the notes C, C sharp, D, D sharp, right? Or you can play, if you are a pianist, you can use the right finger. Starting on C, little C, or your own C now. All right. How about this fast? 1 and 2 and ready and go. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, D sharp, E, C. Okay, come down and call them flats. C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C. Good, we're singing the same thing. And maybe have a little lamb as fleece as white as snow. Pretend you're back in Ireland and somebody give me an Irish accent. I'll bet you're good at that, Brenda. Say maybe at a little lamb.
Mary had a little lamb.
Is that the whole thing?
Whose fleece is white as snow.
All right. Keith, can you give you have 2 Keiths in here? That's interesting. Keith, give me another better Irish accent.
Oh boy. Okay. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, her lamb was sure.
It's getting better. Maddie, how's your accent?
Oh, well, I didn't go to Ireland, so.
Oh, too bad. Let's get somebody with Michael.
No.
Maybe. What? You can't do maybe have a little loud. Make up what? Make up an Irish accent. Lucas.
I didn't go to Ireland.
Oh, come on.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, her lamb was sure to go.
Remember, we're supposed to tap the R's. Mary, Mary. Pick up the tongue and say Mary. He's not Mary. If Mary had a little lamb, and she was very merry at Christmas because she was going to get married. There are 3 Marys, right? And if you say them all alike, Mary was
Mary because she was going to get married and it doesn't work in music. All right, so let's sing it with Mary had a little lamb. Give me your best accent. Is that one and go.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Women begin, then canon. Go, lady.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
I've got a nice move out of it, and I would normally do a 4-part canon. I love stab order, soprano, tenors, altos, bass, but we won't. I'd like you to now sing it in fourths. Let's see, low basses, sing, hum your C. Tenors a fourth above that, please. Thank you. Altos a fourth above that. Good. Sopranos, you know what? No. Just that we're in fourths. This is closed formation. This is not an open chord. Do it again, basses. Bass, tenor. Altos, a fourth above them. Thank you. Tune it. Now sing Mary had a little lamb together at fourth.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
And I would do it faster, and I would do it with lots more consonants. I don't hear too many T's in there. But that whole idea of that is to do vocalises in the middle of your rehearsal, not just all at the beginning, or do musicianship exercises to be halfway through the rehearsal or whatever. Let's just do one phrase from this, please. And let's start where everybody sings forte and you all sing the same words at the same time. Where's that? Take 6. Exultemos. Pitch, please. We were going to move, but because of time we won't. I was going to put basses in the back row like Jim Jordan does. Basses in the back row, and then tenors, and then altos, and then sopranos. I love playing with that, and I do that a lot these days. Okay, all right, here we go. Exultemos, 1 and 2. On a piece, or 2 minutes on a piece, and then just 1 page of a piece instead of always all pieces all over. And now Mendelssohn, go.
Okay, the Mendelssohn that they're going to do, he's already done a bunch of stuff on risk, so we want to keep risk low for volunteers and for music we don't know well, so people are set up for success. Risk can increase as we know a piece, so we have larger groups. The memories of risk-taking in music class last a lifetime. If you don't believe that, ask some adult friends who won't sing anywhere anyhow because they were somehow put at great risk and all that hurt their feeling of themselves. In the middle of the rehearsal, it's always good to have students reflect and review, or you have a moment where they write down what they learned, what they might want to work on. The Mendelssohn piece of this, which will be their last piece, we're going to sort of, Charlene will put together all of the kinds of principles we've talked about to this point.
Let's stand and sing the ending of the chorale. The last half of the piece, starting with Har Alsquat. Soon we have 2 words that end in CH, and since we don't have that sound in English, can somebody tell me, what do you think of when you sing the word I in German, or the word no? What do you think of for that CH? Yeah. That's it.
I think of the word huge.
Huge.
And I also think of my hand imitating what's going on in here.
How about a cat? Everybody goes. It's a front CH, right? We call it Eklat, front CH, so everybody like a cat. It's in the front of the mouth, right? That's good, she's a voice major. So what do you think of when you do the back CH? Like the name of the composer. Everybody say the name of the composer. You thought of him, again. Where does the air come? Over the back of the throat. What's the IPA symbol for that?
It's an X. X. So when you see this, you remember, and you do, if I do this, it's just as a reminder, right? Every now and then. Howard Swan used to always have everybody substitute SH because he said players never put enough of the E. You have your pitch, Howard of God. Okay, I'd like you all to conduct and sing as you do it. And we're conducting 4 this time. 1, 2, ready, go. Big breath. This time I would like you to conduct it in 2. The 2, we'll use the candy cane pattern right down and up. And I would like you to do something different with the echo phrase, what you think is different with that. And I would like you to be sure that you put a crescendo after Angesicht breath. I always told my church choir where to breathe. I would just go through the first thing, get your pencils ready, breathe, breathe. I mark the breath when we sight read. So once I knew where to breathe, half the problems are solved. So be sure you have a crescendo going from Angesicht to Hilfe, yeah? Okay, in 2. 1 and 2, go. Big breath, go. Churches and how everybody's together in their community of worshipers instead of the priest doing it all up in front. And I would talk about the text. You all have read the text, I'm sure. And I would really talk about Mendelssohn and where is Hatfield. Kent, are you here? I just read in his program yesterday, he did his dissertation on Mendelssohn. I just bought the book 2 weeks ago called A Life in Music. I urge you to get it. It's phenomenal. I knew things about Mendelssohn. Everybody knew Mendelssohn was rich. He had a great life. He was friends of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. He knew Goethe as a personal friend. What a life he had. And he wrote 700 pieces before he died at age 38 of stroke. But I'm so much more impressed with Mendelssohn. If we had time, we'd really share some of the, the other thing I learned about Mendelssohn, he was the first composer to use a baton. And he conducted with very small gestures, and he said he often turned his face sideways to his orchestra. He was a great conductor. He would do benefit concerts. He went to London 10 times, and he'd raise money for the London Philharmonic. He just had an amazing life. I love his music, of course. How many of you have sung something else by Mendelssohn? Think about it. How many of you have never heard or done anything by Mendelssohn? Raise your hand. Okay, tell me what you know of Mendelssohn.
His solo works.
Which one? Es ist genug? It is enough from Elijah? You know that? Good.
When he was 20, he conducted Bach's St. Matthew Passion.
Right. Yeah. Only 20, and he conducted the first performance after Bach's death. Now, what music do you know of Mendelssohn that you've heard?
There's one I performed a few years ago. I can't quite remember what it was.
Was it a folk song like the Lark?
No, it wasn't one of his folk songs.
Or In Herbst, or May, the Song of May. He wrote all these great songs, a cappella songs for choir. How about his orchestral music? Do you know any of it?
No.
Anybody know the Hebrides Overture? It's so picturesque, and his Midsummer Night's Dream setting overture is like the best ever. And then, of course, everybody knows the wedding song, right, of Mendelssohn.
about a Christmas carol? Hark the heralding is done. I mean, the more you think about it, the more you think of all the great music he wrote, Scottish Symphony, the Italian Symphony. Just go on YouTube and listen to some Mendelssohn. You'll just love it even more. The middle section, will you sit on the edge of your seat and sing, gentlemen? Got your pitch started? So see? The middle section. We agreed there were 3 sections, so where does the middle section start? At the Andante. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Das ich hineingeh zum Vater Gottes, zu dem Gott.
Stop there. How come the men picked up the tempo and the women didn't? Tell me.
How come we did
Uh-huh.
well, I didn't.
Because it's faster than we did it the last time.
Could be.
But the men were so quick to pick up that new tempo, I just loved it. They were right there, and all of a sudden you come in. Lean to your left, lean to your right. Left, right. Ready, man, go.
Dass ich hineingehe zum Vater Gottes, zu dem
No way.
Dass ich hineingehe zum Vater Gottes, zu dem Gott, der meine Freude und Wonne
Nice accent.
der meine Freude und Wonne
Don't you just love it? Love everything Mendelssohn wrote. Okay, everybody thought he was too sentimental and that he was too, that he wasn't deep enough. There was this big thing at the beginning of the 19th century. He was out of favor because he thought his music wasn't profound enough. It wasn't like Bach, it wasn't like Wagner in the late 19th century, so people looked down on Mendelssohn music. Opening, man, Rika, Sam. Ready, go.
Richte mich Gott und kehre meine Sache wieder dazu, heilige Wort.
You let down the energy on low and high. Could you write a little crescendo and remember that long notes grow? Will you turn around first 2 rows, face the back 2 rows? Will you close your eyes and sing that, please? Back 2 rows, face the front 2, and close your eyes. Close your eyes, no cheating, you have to remember to do it clear. 1, 2, ready, go.
Richte mich Gott und kehre meine Sache wieder dazu, heilige Wort.
Stop that. I feel like you're all trying to sing loud. What does F mean? F doesn't mean loud, it means with power and majesty. Do not judge me, oh God. Don't shout at him. Don't judge me, God. I haven't done anything wrong. Why am I feeling so scared, you know? Did you get more into the mood of it instead of like, I've got a big voice? Close your eyes. Will you also tell me which syllables are not as important as the others? You can bend your knees, you can do whatever. Right now, every syllable feels like equal weight to me. Do something about that. Close your eyes. 1, 2, ready, go.
Richte mich Gott und kehre meine Sache wieder dazu, heilige
Go away. Thank you, man. You may turn around and sit down. I wish we had 2 hours. This choir is so much fun to work with. They're so fast, and I cannot thank Michelle and this choir enough. Will you please show them how great one setting, and you can do it in churches or schools. Because it was even before Jesus was born, the text was written. We can sing it anywhere, anytime. Yeah. Debbie, you want to close?
I just want to thank also the choir and thank Charlene for not just today, but for a lifetime of teaching, mentoring, caring, and being such a model. I was at a workshop this summer in Lake Tahoe, and oh my gosh, her name came up every hour. So thank you for everything, and I now will turn it back over to you. Turn it over to me too. Thank you.
Yes.
How can we thank you? It's by honoring you. You said you wanted your audiences to feel, and we feel with you everything that you do as a conductor, as a consummate musician, as an extremely passionate teacher. What's great is that you are a humble expert, and you are a sincere life learner, and that is very humbling to us and inspirational. And on top of all that, I'm just going to be honest, you are very inspirational to the women in our field, being the first to get a DMA in conducting, and also stay on that path of being who you are, which is an amazing musician and an incredible teacher. So we honor you with this award, which reads to Charlene Archibeque for her inspirational leadership, contributions, and distinguished career as a master teacher and conductor.
Because I am a lifetime learner. I'm just reading a great new book. I urge you all to get it. It's called What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20 by Tina Seeley. It's got 3 principles in there that we need to teach all of our students. Her father is a close friend of mine, a VC, head of engineering at IT&T and Lockheed, and his daughter is brilliant, Tina Seeley. She's written 3 bestsellers. I urge you to get. That's what I'm reading now. But what she said is wonderful because I love teaching conducting. If anybody wants me to come and do a master's conducting workshop, that's my big thing, is helping people become better interpreters through the hand. And what a great job she did last night conducting. This means a lot to me, folks. I've had a lot of honors in my life, including the Alex One Award. But coming from you all as conductors that I associate with, college conductors who are right there in the trenches making such beautiful music. I admire you all, and I'm so happy for this organization, and I'm so humble. Thank you. we used to associate with some very influential and wealthy people. And he would tell us about his conversations, and he'd say, all of these business leaders and very rich people, I would tell them, I am in the best profession. And I have always agreed with him. Nothing else, if I came back to this earth, that I would rather do is exactly what I've done my whole life, is teach choral music. And